Now, 10 people have been hospitalised following an accident involving a taxi, a bakkie and a sedan on the R61 between Komani and Takastad. That's in the Eastern Cape. The provincial transport spokesperson Unathi Binqose says the crash occurred after the sedan lost control, overturned and caught fire. He says the blaze spread, causing a secondary collision, with the minibus, taxi and the bakkie. Binqose joining us now via our video link for more on what took place. And Unathi, to say that it's been a difficult period for the Eastern Cape over the past few weeks is probably an understatement. Take us through the events that took place in this particular accident.
Look, it's one of those accidents that have given us something a bit positive to reflect on, in that in the 20 people that were involved in this crash, a crash that involved some fire, but not a single soul was lost. And we're extremely grateful for that. Like you said, unfortunately, 10 sustained injuries and 2 of them sustained some minor burn wounds. But we understand the magnitude of the accident, and we know that it could have been a lot worse. A lot of souls could have been lost, given the fact that among the vehicles that were involved was a fully loaded minibus taxi, but somehow people managed to crawl outside those vehicles, with them being on fire, and their lives were spared. But overall, the festive season has been way worse than we had anticipated. Look, we came into this festive season having reduced fatalities from the year before by 21.5%. The aim was to, at the very least, match that figure if we are not going to be able to beat it. But unfortunately, as fate would have it, here we are now talking about over 150 people having lost their lives, which is extremely disturbing. But we're grateful for moments like these, because this accident could have added to the already bad picture that we have as the province of the Eastern Cape.
Sure, my goodness, these are eye-watering figures. Are you able to get us a sense of what might have led to this particular accident? I mean, the information we have is that it's the sedan that lost control and essentially unleashed the series of events that unfollowed thereafter.
Indeed, that is the case. That is the case. Is the driver who lost control of the vehicle. It overturned, caught fire, and out of the smoke, thick smoke that resulted from the fire, there was a secondary accident, which involved a fully loaded minibus taxi as well as a bakkie, and yes, there were some injuries. But another thing that we have noticed as the province of the Eastern Cape is that there are a lot of those incidents we'll call not so much accidents, but crashes. I mean, head-on collisions. You can barely call those accidents. I mean, it's a crash. It's a lack of judgment from the driver. And unfortunately, in cases like those, there's always an innocent driver who finds himself or herself in the middle of the accident that they didn't create. That was the case again here, because the secondary accident was a head-on collision between the minibus taxi as well as the van. And we are seeing a lot of vehicles that are registered outside the province being involved in a lot of crashes. If I can take you through the worst that we've had so far. Okay, let's start with this one. The BMW is a Western Cape registered vehicle as well as the minibus taxi. The only Eastern Cape registered vehicle here was the bakkie. You go to the accident that claimed 14 lives near Grafrinet. It was a taxi that was registered in the Western Cape. You go to the accident that claimed 12 lives on the N2 near Dujwa. Again, another vehicle that is registered outside the province. That is another trend that we have noticed happening in the Eastern Cape. But of course, the one thing that stands out is that we have seen a lot of head-on collisions, and head-on collisions, unlike any other collision, are most likely to result into multitudes of death, as we have seen in the province during this festive season. And another thing that we did not see last year was that there were a lot of crashes that involved minibus taxis. And when minibus taxis are involved, you know that there are a lot of people that will be affected by such accidents. And one last point, and I'm sorry, I know I may be taking up a bit of your time. The worst accident we had last year in terms of the number of fatalities claimed 8 lives, and that happened on the 2nd of January in 2024. And this festive season, we've had 2 accidents that have claimed in excess of 10 lives. So those are the dynamics that have added to the drastic change that we are seeing in fatalities in the Eastern Cape.
Sure. No, please don't worry about taking up the time. I think this is very important information because it raises interesting questions, especially if we're going to try and move those figures in the right direction with the festive season coming up later this year. But Unathi Binqose, for now, let me thank you for once again being available to give us this important update. He, of course, is the spokesperson for the Transport Department in the Eastern Cape. And I'm afraid that's where we're going to have to leave it here on the agenda.